Welcome to another edition of The Adult Potato. I'm Fiona Tater. The June 13th Board of Trustees meeting finally settled the pot shop ordinance. Well, for now at least, since the old man on the board says it's a living document and we can always change it again. But he's only one voice and voted not to change anything from the original anyway. Gator joined him in that vote, even though he played games by adding an amendment to the amended B option, with absolutely no intention of voting for that option anyway. I'm guessing he's starting his list of accomplishments for the next trustees election in April. This way, he can say that he voted against it, but put in the amendment to make option B identical to option C. Such a politician, but we don't expect anything less from him. Other than that, we met Caitlin, the new business liaison for the town, and wish her luck on this adventure. Dennis Hipsag nailed down the liquor license for the Legion's amazing July 4th beer garden. It's a favorite every year and should be a rubber stamp at this point, but Gator and Teets had to throw in some questions to show they're doing their jobs. So now to the fear-mongering that we promised, Wellington underwater. No, we're not flooding and the board is working on keeping it that way, but this has been a long time coming. So we're going to start with a Board of Trustees meeting from 2019 that addresses things from years and years earlier than that about our dams that protect the town that were built in the 70s and 80s. Looking at the May 21st, 2019 Board of Trustees work session agenda, pages 16 through 18 gave some background to the B dams that were built in the 70s and 80s to keep Wellington safe from the 100-year floodplain. Among the information provided was that B2 Dam holds up to 12,000 acre-feet of water and that B3 Dam holds back up to 6,400 acre-feet. If those dams were to break and they were at full capacity, that would be the equivalent of about 1/10 of the water of Horsetooth Reservoir rushing through town. According to the notes, Dam B2 is an earthen embankment flood control structure located on Box Elder Creek, approximately 1/2 mile northeast of the intersection of CR 50 and CR 78. Dam B3 is an earthen embankment flood control structure located on Coal Creek, a tributary to Box Elder Creek, northeast of the intersection of CR 7 and CR 76 by the Owl Canyon glider port. The presentation from the trustees meeting on June 13th noted that without the B dams, approximately 75% of the town would lie within the regulatory 100-year floodplain. Additionally, from the presentation, in the mid-2010s, B2, B3, and B4 were reclassified as high-hazard dams by the state, meaning the dams must either be improved to meet a higher performance standard or be removed. And pretty much like our other water-related issues in this town, that got kicked down the road to 2018 when the National Resources Conservation Service basically said to North Poudre Irrigation, Wellington, Timnath, Fort Collins, and Larimer County to get off their asses and do something or they weren't going to match any more money. So everyone got together and played nice and split the cost of the $250,000 study to figure out what needed to be done to keep our town safe from the results of the failure of the dams in what the NRCS classifies as loss of life and serious damage to homes, industrial or commercial buildings, utilities, main highways, and railroads. The Colorado Division of Water Safety just says loss of human life is expected to result from failure of the dam. Fortunately, these dams that were built in the 70s and 80s of what the kids call the last century, yes, we get it, we're old, have low failure likelihood. Well, at least B2, 3, and 4 are. I didn't see much on B5 and 6, but they don't seem to target Wellington and are further away, so we'll let the others focus on those. The study shows that Wellington is the community with the highest amount of flood risk if the dams break. Wellington already has money set aside in this year's budget and years moving forward for the annual contributions to the operations and maintenance costs and fund. But nothing has actually moved forward on the emergency action plan. Keep in mind that you have 5 different entities that have to agree on the emergency action plan and the operations and maintenance plan. It does sound like everyone is ready to pony up $20,000 each for the early flood warning system, though. So what does this mean to all of our finished basements if the dams break? Well, Even with the ridiculous amount of rain we've received this spring, the dams are doing their job. But if something did happen, we'd all be screwed unless you're paying extra for flood insurance, as it's not included in your homeowner's policy. And since we have the dams, we can't get the reasonably priced FEMA flood insurance. FEMA's site notes that even 1 inch of water in a house can cause up to $25,000 in damage, and 18,000 acre-feet of water is going to put more than an inch in our basements, or houses in general, assuming they're still standing. Also, if you're hoping for Wellington to be declared a federal disaster area, the grants are not going to cover the full cost of the damages, but you might qualify for a low-rate loan to fix things up. And then on top of that, electricity will most likely be out for days, roads and railroad tracks washed out, and, even worse, none of the coffee shops will be open. But the town is all on board to keep those dams maintained and the town safe. Now all we need to do is to make sure the other entities involved feel the same way. But don't worry, the dams are in good condition. Just keep the fireworks away from them just in case. That's it for this week's episode. Enjoy the weather and keep your doors locked. I'm guessing it can help keep the floodwaters at bay.